when they announced the incredible news, one of the, honestly, without exaggeration, one of the biggest, most important pieces of movie news that I have ever covered in my 20 years of doing this was that they announced that they were doing Deadpool 3 with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman reprising his role as Wolverine. Other than the announcement that Disney had bought Lucasfilm, no other piece of movie news has excited me as much as this. Now, one of the big questions that then came up, and there were several, but one of them was this: what about Vanessa? And I'm not talking about Kingpin's girl. Vanessa! What about Vanessa? What about Morena Baccarin, who is absolutely the core emotional motivation for Wade, Deadpool, in both movies that have been out? Like, she is the emotional motivation for everything that happens, whether it's to save her or whether it's grieving her. Like, she's kind of the flashpoint of everything. And she's just wonderful in it. And the on-screen chemistry between Ryan Reynolds and her is absolutely magical. And I'm a guy who does not like romances in my comic book movies. Out of like the 50 comic book movies I've seen, there have maybe been 4 that I like the romances. That's one of them. That's one of the best. And I still contend that one of the hardest moments in any comic book movie that I've ever laughed the hardest comes in the form of the phrase International Women's Day. It's a short list of moments in comic book movies that made me laugh as hard as that. She's fantastic. Going all the way back to Firefly and Serenity. She was even in V. She was in Gotham. She's always great. She's great, but I loved her as Vanessa. And there's not really been any talk about whether or not Vanessa would be in the next one. Well, now Morena Baccarin is kind of opening up. She was just on Michael Rosenbaum's really great podcast, Inside of You. And she was asked her about Deadpool 3, to which she gave what some people are interpreting as encouraging news, but others are interpreting it as discouraging news. It's funny. Some outlets are running this as Morena Baccarin gives good news on update about Deadpool 3. Then you get others like this one, Morena Baccarin casts doubt on Deadpool 3. All from the same thing. Here's what she actually said. This is her quote. She said the following: "What is up with Deadpool 3? That's a really good question. I have to be very diplomatic about what I say here. I'd like to be in it. They have called me about being in it. Right now, we have not agreed on terms. And everybody's trying their best and doing their best. But it may or may not work out. I don't know." So we have here a situation where she wants to be in the movie. They clearly want her in the movie. They have begun talking. Negotiations are going on, but they haven't come to a deal. This is interesting to me because understanding the cost of like even just pre-production of a movie or a show, you would think that if the script is written, they're going to start shooting this thing. The script is written. You would think that they would go, hey, before we start writing some major stuff for Vanessa in this, do you want to go and make sure that Morena's down for being in it and you guys can work out a deal? Because this has always been a thing to me. It's like, how can you be negotiating with one of the actors right up to the last second? Because if they're not in it, well, now you've got probably 15 pages of your script you got to completely change. All right, so look, for me, it's hard for me to imagine a Deadpool movie without Vanessa. Again, just because she has been the core flux of everything that's been about his motivation in the thing so far. That doesn't mean she has to be in there moving forward. It's just that when I think of the Deadpool movies, I think of this. I don't just think about Ryan. I think about Ryan and Morena. And that matchup is magical. It's great. Now, again, doesn't mean it can't be fantastic without her. Of course it can be. But I really hope they can work this out because, listen, actresses these days are kind of drawing a line in the sand. We just saw recently what's the Neve Campbell in the Scream series, right? Neve Campbell, there are a lot of people in the Scream movies, but if you had to say who's the star of the Scream series, it's Neve Campbell. And she just basically said, look, they just thought I was going to say sure just because I get to be in a movie, but they were not willing to pay me what I thought I was worth. so I'm not going to be in it. And she wasn't in it. And guess what? Scream 6 worked out just fine. It did. I thought Scream 6 was quite good. I didn't think it was as good as 5, but Scream 6 worked out great. Set a box office record for the Scream franchise for a biggest opening weekend in the history of the franchise. And now maybe Morena Baccarin is saying, hey guys, listen, like, I don't know. Listen, for all I know, they're offering her $500,000 for 2 days work, which she should take. Or maybe they're offering her $50,000 to be in the movie. I just don't know. Without actually knowing what the numbers are, it's impossible to say, which side should we be, like, are we saying Morena's being, unreasonable with how much she wants? Are we saying that the studio's being unreasonable for how much they're willing? Well, unless we know the actual dollar figure, it's hard to say. I am encouraged to hear, though, that they are still talking and negotiating. They're trying to get a deal done. Because while I will still be 100% excited for Deadpool 3 with Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds, 100%, and it kind of sounds like Patrick Stewart maybe too, I would really like to see it with her in there too. Will it work out? I'm not sure. Question is for you guys. What do you think about this? Maybe when you think of the Deadpool movies, you don't even think about the Vanessa character. Do you think she will, at the end of the day, end up being in the movie? Do you think they'll come to a deal? Maybe you don't even want her in it. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip the trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. And that's why it's America's #1 meal kit. And there's no worries if you're not a pro in the kitchen. HelloFresh's foolproof recipes arrive pre-portioned and easy to prepare in just a few steps. You'll be feeling like Gordon frickin' Ramsay in no time. And guys, look, we're always looking for more ways to save money. HelloFresh is cheaper than grocery shopping and 25% cheaper than takeout. I've told you guys before, Ann and I love using HelloFresh. Not only is it really easy to put together fantastic looking and tasting meals, but it's also a lot of fun, and you get this really great sense of accomplishment when you're looking at this prepared dish that you've made with your own hands. So go to hellofresh.com/Campea50 and use the code Campea50 for 50% off, plus your first box ships free. That's hellofresh.com/Campea50 and using the promo code Campea50 for 50% off your first box ships free. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.